Cheers, yeah.
Here, there's some right there. So, and that package is about a $10 billion package. There are various parts to it. Some, for instance, is about 109 for the bridge over the Snowish River. Part of 9 has been expanded over the years. It's one of the things.
Is that funded?
In that package for the bridge.
The actual price of that now, Hans, is $134 million.
Okay.
But the 109 is for the build in the package right now, but it's not really 109.
Okay. Okay. So, you know, the trestle is just a grundle of money to replace that. I mean, 500 million or something like that. I'm just guessing about at that price.
I'm not really worried about the trestle itself. I mean, obviously all of us are, but the merge from Lake Stevens onto that trestle, you got 20th coming down. There's accidents there
Sure.
all the time.
Sure.
I mean, it's a terrible merge, whoever designed it. I'm guessing WSDOT designed that, so.
Well, 40 years ago, you know, I mean, when the trestle was first built and you had, you know, one person come down every 20 minutes, you know, those interchanges worked at that time, right?
Right, but
Yeah, they
it
don't
seems like
have-
it hasn't been addressed in
Right.
decades.
Right. And it's, you know, it's about money, and because, you know, how do you bring 3 lanes together when you only have 2 lanes? If you had 3 lanes going across the trestle coming westward, you would be in a lot better shape on that, right? Hey. So I don't have any easy answer on you there, but it's going to be a long time before it's going to be a grundle of money before that trestle ever gets touched. Just an issue, because the issue isn't the 3 merges, it's the fact that you only have 2 lanes going that you have to bring 3 people into. You know, and I've asked them, are there other ways to configure it? You know, we changed the eastbound. Remember, it used to be 2 lanes going to Snowish, right? And that change helped some, but it didn't. You know, there's no perfect solution without just a chunk of money. So, I know it's probably unsatisfying, but that's sort of the state of the land at the moment. So, sort of go around the room. What would you like to talk about?
I would, yes.
I saw about 50,000 of those this last summer. Okay.
Yeah, I bet you did. You know, the 2/3.
Okay, so we'll come back to the 2/3. I just sort of want a topic.
Sure.
So that's on the list already. Okay. So what would you like to talk about? It's okay.
I keep my question to the end, I'm not sure.
Okay. So sort of what we'll do is we'll sort of swing across the room, and I sort of got the subject. I go around just to get the subject. So do you have a different subject?
Well, I'm not concerned about, I mean, the 2/3 is huge.
Sure. Okay. Well, what is it? I mean,
Well,
I'm just trying to
how
tie
that
it.
because where I live, the concept
Oh, this is the hill thing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's topography, not people. God, you tried to bike up and down that hill a couple of times. It kills you.
Well,
It's me and my bicycle.
I mean, you're talking about me.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about the gradation of the hill.
I live there.
I know it's a hill, right?
A hill is not ignorant.
Okay, so if I can write out the whole, okay, we'll get to that. Okay,
I'm interested in full funding for education and
Uh-huh.
national teacher certification.
okay. I forget your name.
Bruce.
Yeah, usual.
Nothing so far.
Okay.
I'm here to listen.
Okay. You're gonna say something though, aren't you?
I might.
Okay.
One day.
Okay.
I'm here to find out.
Well, I was in a bad accident on Highway 9,
Okay.
and you guys might have saw the journal on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was in that accident, and 2 27-year-olds lost their life, and I survived. And that was on 9 in Lundeen, and then on 9 right after Lundeen, it has a barrier between both lanes.
Okay,
So because of my accident, I'm here to say I think there should be a barrier on 9 before Lundeen also.
okay, okay,
I'm his mother, I'm here to watch
Okay.
and listen.
okay. Okay, so, let's go to you.
You want to talk to me now?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sort of in the order that you came in, sort
So,
of thing. God, you got a lot of stuff written down there.
I have lots of notes, I'm really good at notes. I'm really good at research,
Okay, cool.
because that's what I do.
Okay.
So recently, we've had a lot of discussion about pro and con in both our Washington and Washington DC about gun laws.
Uh-huh.
I've sent you several emails about it, I got a reply to one,
Mhm.
and when I answered that one, I haven't heard anything from you for over a month and a half.
Uh-huh.
So let me give you the answer
Okay,
that I sent you, so you can read it when,
Okay.
at your own pleasure.
okay,
But in talking about gun control, I think we kind of need to have a basis in fact, and not something based out of the Brady campaign, or out of Mayor Bloomberg's office, or even the NRA, or anybody else. I think we need to have some actual facts instead of dealing with, we shouldn't have this, or we should have this. Granted, I don't believe that anybody in the civilian market should have a rocket launcher or an automatic weapon for that matter. I don't think there's a need for it.
okay.
However, you know, several bills that have gone through, Senate Bill 5737, that I understand died recently.
Yeah, nothing came out of this state.
Was, had a very draconian comment in it, or requirement in it, to require, or to allow the sheriff to come in and do a warrantless search
Saw some
of the
stories,
premises.
yeah, saw some stories about
Much
that.
for the Fourth Amendment,
Yeah, yeah.
to inspect for guns. So, when the representative said that it was an oversight, even just a little research shows you that it was also Senate Bill 6390 in 2010, and Senate Bill 5475 in 2005. Our elected representatives are there to represent us, and not to take our rights away.
Uh-huh. Agreed.
And that's exactly what those were doing.
Uh-huh. Agreed.
So, you know, there's been more than one case that shows that police have no duty to protect. It's really sad, it's really scary if you think about it. Castle Rock versus Gonzalez and Warner versus the District of Columbia both say that police don't have to respond. So who protects my family?
Uh-huh.
And how many rounds is it gonna take? 3, 5, 7, 30? Whose decision is that to make? So, I live in Marysville, a city of over 60,000 people on the hill. And I work regularly at Boeing. I've been there 25 years.
Uh-huh.
So I go to work at 10 o'clock at night and I come home at 6 in the morning. And a couple of years ago, my wife heard somebody trying to get into our house. So I told her to hang up,
Uh-huh.
call 911, go in the bedroom, grab her gun. The real disturbing part was the fact that with as small as Marysville is, and don't get me wrong, they have a great police department. I spend a lot of time with a lot of them. Their response times are really pretty good. However, the fact that I could drive from Boeing here in Everett to my house and pull up right behind the cops as they're pulling up, hey, that's unsafe.
Yeah, that would be like 15 minutes then, or something like that, right?
Sure, safe and posted.
15 terrifying minutes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm surprised, because usually
So,
in Snowish, it's 2 to 3 minutes.
Marysville is really good about responding.
Huh.
However,
That's not very-
the fact that I can get there from there,
Uh-huh.
who protects my family?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So, you know, I understand the tragedy of Sandy Hook and the Colorado shooting and all the other things. They are tragic. They really are.
Uh-huh.
But dancing on these people's graves to pass laws that do absolutely nothing is just horrendous.
Here, here.
Uh-huh.
Everybody talks about a 7-round magazine limit. It'll do nothing. It'll do nothing.
Uh-huh.
Was it the Columbine shooting? We're 5 years into the Clinton gun ban?
Uh-huh.
And instead of having a high capacity, what everyone calls a high capacity magazine, and for the record, that would be a standard capacity magazine. The gun's designed to work with a 30-round magazine, that's standard capacity. Anything else is restricted.
Anything else?
I get a little,
It's okay,
I get a little loud.
say that again, 30 is,
If a gun is designed to operate with a 30-round magazine, or a 15-round magazine, or a 20-round magazine, that's its standard capacity. Anything less is a restricted use. It's a
okay,
restricted magazine.
so 30, 40, 50, whatever.
Whatever it's designed to use is its standard capacity.
Okay, so you, so
So the
the
fact
100,
is,
the 100 round,
that is a high capacity.
yeah,
That is.
okay.
But why are we using a arbitrary number? The fact is,
They're just having an emergency.
there's an emergency call in the fire
Oh.
department.
Okay.
The fact is, it doesn't matter. The guy that did the shooting down at Columbine High School, he was using 10-round magazines. He just carried a bunch of them. Go on the web and search for the county sheriff. It's just showed that shooting out of a 15 or 20-round magazine compared to 3 magazine change or 2 magazine changes, your time is nil. It's inconsequential. It doesn't make a difference. They talk about universal gun laws. Well, they're not universal because criminals don't participate and they don't have to. They have a Fifth Amendment right not to have to. What is it? Where is it?
You would say if there was a universal background check,
James?
just can I ask a question?
Mhm.
If there was a universal background check at the purchase, you're saying that criminals have a Fifth Amendment due process right not to, so that you could just.
James versus U.S., 1968.
So they could just refuse.
Correct. And not be prosecuted for it.
Okay, that's new to me.
It's not universal.
Okay.
It's not. It's all warm and fuzzy. It sounds good, it looks good on the surface,
Okay,
but it doesn't pass the sniff test.
okay.
They just don't work.
Okay.
Look at Colorado. They're passing all these bills right now that restrict their magazine capacity.
They're signed, yeah.
They're signed and they're going to the governor. And one company has already told them they're pulling out of the state if it gets passed into law. There's several production companies that won't produce videos there anymore. They're moving their productions out because of these laws. These laws affect honest, law-abiding citizens. Criminals don't care. That's why they're criminals. We have over 20,000 gun laws in the United States that cover all this stuff. But we don't prosecute them.
We got boxes of guys out there in Monroe that are prosecuted for a lot of crimes.
Yeah, a lot of them walk away,
Well, we can debate that.
you know.
I mean, we're about to build another $200 million prison, and a lot of those people will be guns.
So at what point do we stop?
Uh-huh.
Where do we stop? What's enough? New York just passed a law that said they went from what was a 10-round magazine limit to a 7,
Yeah.
knowing that 90% of the guns out there on the market don't make a 7-round magazine.
Uh-huh.
So they just made all those guns illegal in that state. Convenient. Colorado's laws are boilerplate from New York.
Uh-huh. Well, the joy of your life is that you never have to travel in those places.
And you're right, I don't. But I don't want to see my state in that same predicament. You know, Mayor Bloomberg and his goons that go around the country trying to enforce their,
Bad word, goon.
Can I ask just
Mayor
a follow-up?
Bloomberg and his employees.
Friends, yes. But
They go around the
important
state.
thing about this conversation,
Create
just,
shooting
can I
stoppers.
say something?
Sure.
So the important thing about this conversation is it's civil.
Okay.
That's more important actually than anything we say.
Like I
Because
said,
democracy, can I
I
say this?
Sure.
I know you don't come to these things very often because I don't have enough of them. Important thing about democracy is that the conversation is civil. That's actually what keeps us from collapsing into sort of a Syrian kind of discussion.
My apology.
Okay, so you want to say something else?
Oh, yeah, just, if you could elaborate on the comment, about the new $200 million prison being built in Monroe, if I understood it correctly.
No, Monroe, it would be somewhere else.
Okay,
Yeah.
the comment was, a lot of those people will be in there because of guns, and just you know, feel
Sure.
free to elaborate.
Sure. So I can probably get you the numbers of how many prisoners we have because, like, they had a gun in a robbery or something and they're in there for extra time. We put penalties on crimes committed with guns, and so I could get you those statistics.
Sure.
Okay.
Where's it gonna be held?
Maybe Rochester, down in Thurston or Lewis County. I think it's in Lewis County. That's a possibility. I could go into a long discussion about prisoner population and capacity, trying to find jails. There is some jail capacity in King and Yakima County, for instance, in discussions with those counties about trying to put prisoners in there as opposed to building new ones. But they want more money. They want more money on a daily rate than it costs us to put them in prison. So, but anyway, we're trying to avoid the capital costs, but the operating costs may be higher. Well, sir, I could sit there.
No, I'm just too close.
I rarely spit when I talk.
I think just a lot of the fear around is that so many people rely on them for their self-protection, and that with a lot of it's national media, there's a lot of fear that we're going to have bills that are not good. Now, if you're talking universal background checks as standard, that doesn't seem like an extremist position. But there's been a lot of things that have come across as extremist, and we're hoping that you or any of our legislators will make sure that we still have the right to protect ourselves against gun violence with guns.
So, I'll give you my position. So, you were going on. So go ahead. No, I'm serious. I want you to be able to finish.
I'm pretty much done. Yeah.
Okay. So, on guns, you may disagree, but I'm going to give you my position. Guns don't kill people, and cars don't kill people. Drunks and criminals kill people. And I think there's a very strong analogy in that we work really hard to keep drunks from getting cars on the highway. And I think we ought to work equally hard to keep criminals from getting guns. And respectfully, a check at purchase, I think, is equivalent to checking somebody who's buying a car and saying, "Are you drunk?" And I think that facts that I've seen, without getting into the back and forth about facts, I think the simple fact is that if you can keep a criminal from buying a gun, I think you're to your advantage. So,
I agree with you.
okay.
I don't like your analogy. Your analogy is a car, which is not a right. It's a privilege.
Yeah.
And it can be revoked. Both the U.S. Constitution and the Washington State Constitution say almost identically that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
In fact, the state constitution is stronger than the federal constitution. Right. You and your right are not impaired by the fact that we check to make sure you're not a criminal.
As long as there's not a natural disaster, and now the instant background check isn't so instant anymore.
Well, you probably can't get up to Kessel Rings to buy a new gun, so.
But I don't have to go to Kessel Rings. There's North Point up here. There's
But you get my point, that you're not gonna have to travel. You're gonna be fully armed in case of a natural disaster already, right?
cannot confirm nor deny.
I would suspect you're fully armed. And I support your right to do that. I don't support the right of a criminal to have a gun.
And I support that.
Okay.
I just ask that when in doing these things, that we do them so we don't infringe upon the law-abiding citizens to exercise their constitutional right.
Absolutely. And, you know, people are going to introduce bills. That's their right, right? Somebody from the shadow of the Space Needle is going to throw a bill in that you're going to hate. And somebody from Republic is going to throw in a bill that you're going to hate. And then we go through this process of, you know, everybody gets together and discusses these things. And you should read Federalist Paper number 10 by Madison, when he talks about, he's arguing for the existence of a strong federal government, right? Because he's saying that sort of the collective wisdom will dampen down any provincial radicalism. In other words, one person saying, I want this, and that the larger will dampen that down, and that's what's happened in these cases. There were bills, that Senate bill, you know, didn't even get a hearing. And it certainly didn't pass the Senate, and wouldn't have passed the House. So the process of democracy worked there.
So, on that one.
Okay.
But there's more, and there's more coming.
Sure.
And I expect to, you know,
And democracy,
this is the first time I've been involved with this stuff. And to tell you the truth, it scares the hell out of me now.
okay.
I-
Welcome to
I-
democracy.
Well, and I'll tell you, it didn't always. I started taking classes 15 years ago, and became an instructor on firearm safety and personal defense, both armed and disarmed. I've taken hours of law classes to learn about the ramifications of using a firearm in a lethal force encounter.
Good for you.
It's scary. But that's bad enough, much less to be afraid of the government entity that wants to come in and take over.
Nice thing about democracy is we have elections.
We do.
Yes.
I just, the question on everybody's mind is how are we gonna pay for our shortfall, our state budget shortfall?
Okay.
So that's what, billion or more.
Yeah.
And then we just have an additional, money to pay that the courts ruled on. So I think we really,
Not 1.4 billion is
yeah,
what
1.4.
what the
So,
court said we need to put into education
yeah.
this biennium.
And we're halfway through the session, legislative session, so what's gonna happen at the end?
You're not even near the witching hour yet.
That's what I'm trying to, do we have to wait until the last 3 days?
Yeah, you do. Because the pressure ain't there yet. Okay, well, generally that was just a sort of a general conversation. So anybody else want to talk about guns or mental health or anything? Okay.
I am his wife, but not as, we see it differently,
Okay.
on the same side but differently. I work in the healthcare field, and, you know, he's a United States Marine, he fought for our freedom, and is a firearm safety instructor, and one of the best providers and husband and protector I've known ever. And he's very passionate about his family and protecting his rights. I, on the other hand, you came to my door. You knocked on my door and looked me in the eyes and asked me for my vote. So this is emotional, sorry, because on the emotional side. I voted for you, and I work in the healthcare field, and I don't know all the laws and can't quote everything like you can, but I would say that I think that the main problem here is HIPAA. I think HIPAA is holding us up a little bit on determining who the mentally ill are and who probably shouldn't receive a gun. And I think that sometimes the government paints themselves into corners by making these laws that are really fabulous for, like HIPAA is great for people's protection, but it's so great that we can't even get in there and move it around to be able to apply it over here to the safety of our citizens who are in malls and schools and all of that. I think that some of our laws are the problem, and I think HIPAA is a big one.
Okay, so can I do, so HIPAA is basically the privacy of your medical information.
Health information privacy.
Right, I can't get it. And so that nobody can get the information about what drugs you're taking, what treatment you're getting. You know, when the pharmacy, if you ever stood in the pharmacy line, they say, stand back here, so you can't read what a person's getting, that's HIPAA.
And because of HIPAA, when you do background checks, they can't know if you're mentally ill or not. I think that that's a problem. My problem is, my father-in-law could get his driver's license taken away from a doctor because the doctor said, you are too old and blind to drive. You're a danger to society. But a doctor can't go to anywhere and say, this person should not own a firearm or drive a car or be around children. We have these sex offender laws. We know these people can't be away by schools or by our kids, all that stuff. Yet they can go get a gun and walk into a school. So that's my problem.
Sure.
But also just as the emotional person here and as the wife, and without being offensive to anyone, I would just like to look you in the eyes one more time like you did when you came to my house and asked for my vote, and I'm sorry, but I'm ashamed that I voted for you.
Okay.
And I think you're a really nice guy. You probably are a really great husband and friend, and I regret voting for you.
Okay.
So, thank
That's
you
the process,
for
no
letting me
problem.
say that.
So on the mental illness, we're moving the law a little down there to more involuntary commitment. The problem is a person guilty? How is a person guilty that makes them lose their rights in this society, right? And you just don't say because you're a little odd, we're going to take away your right to a gun. If you take away a person's right to self-determination, take away a person's citizenship, that's a significant step when you do that. And there are thousands of mentally ill people who are in no danger. The
Should the doctor make that decision
um,
They're diagnosing them.
right.
They're prescribing marijuana in some cases.
So the involuntary commitment law does say that, but a judge has to make final determination on whether that person loses their citizenship and their rights.
Let's do that. Let's make it part of our background check.
So we moved it a little and we made it easier to involuntarily commit a person. But don't be under the illusion that there's a mental health system out there, by the way, because there isn't. The facilities aren't there, the treatment isn't there,
Let's do it.
it's money.
Okay, let's find it.
Okay,
It's costing more money not to do it.
My question.
okay.
More people.
So, a lot of people would say education is the prime. I mean, I'm just giving you the.
Education is, yes.
Yes, and that costs billions. I've actually advocated for more mental health funding many times and fought for that in the budget, and you can see that out of work. But nobody's suing us right now, or has sued and won about the paramount duty, for instance. And people want other things. And it's a balance of all these things, right? I'd love to fund a real mental health system.
Most of our homeless people are mentally ill. I worked in the mental illness in the field forever, and chemical dependency, and those are the people that need it. They
So-
can get some help too.
So in my family, I went through the family-to-family NAMI program and listened to a lot of those stories. And they're horrible stories, and people are mentally ill and not taking care of themselves. But there's even a tension within the mental health family between essentially the parents and the person, right? And when do you lose your rights to be a person? And I don't have an easy answer for you. And we fight that out. I would love to put more in. We have cut out of, over the last 4 or 5 years, we have cut $10 billion out of the carry forward budget in the state. We have lost significant revenues and cut accordingly. And mental health has suffered. But about 6 years ago, for instance, the federal government cut about $80 billion out of our budget. They were giving us mental health money, and they cut about $80 billion one year, and they'll look at another $120 the next year. We made up for those. We backfilled that. But again, the funding is drying up with everything else at the wrong time. But you just can't move the line on involuntary commitment without having the resources there to treat people.
But since you're our voice, could you maybe lean on HIPAA a little bit?
So HIPAA is federal law.
Oh, I know, but
Again,
could you maybe,
we're trying to move, we've moved out of the House, we've moved 2 changes to essentially the involuntary commitment law. One for people who were actually ruled to be incompetent to stand trial, then they go into treatment, and then they sort of drift in the treatment world. And we changed that so that they can't flip back and forth. Or at least this is what we've pushed out of the House. And we have moved the involuntary treatment line a bit, and I can't give you I voted for it, I can't remember it comes from 3 or 4 nights of midnight work. I can't remember exactly how we moved the line, but we made it easier to involuntarily commit.
thank you, do you know the bill number? Excuse me.
Sorry. Did you zap an email to me? I'll get you those bill numbers.
Yeah.
Representative Dunshee. First of all, I want to start out by saying thank you. Thanks for all your years of service. As a trustee at ECC, I want to thank you for everything you've done for higher ed and for the project that we have going on with Washington State University. And I mean, you do a lot of great work, so I really appreciate it. My question for you today is, and I've talked to you about it before, in 2010, there was that horrific increase on the beer tax.
Talking the temporary beer.
And, I've spent my entire life, third generation in the beer business. The tax pretty much almost killed a lot of the distributors in Washington State, but everybody tolerated it. They've laid off, Crown laid off 25 people in the last year. They're getting by barely. It's scheduled to sunset in July of this year. And I'm just really, really concerned. And I'm out of the business, and I've been out since 2007, so some people are like, why do you care? But I have so many friends in the business, I have a lot of family in the business, and I care a lot about the employees I had. The people call me all the time, and they're like, it's not the same. The industry is dying. And I just really feel strongly that I understand the crises that we're in Washington State financially, but singling out an individual industry is not the solution. And it's not enough money to fix it, and it's not fair. But I guess my question for you is, since it is scheduled to sunset and we want to trust that the legislators are going to do what they say they're going to do, I just want to hear your opinion. And at least they did their part. They fulfilled their commitment for the term until the sunset, and hopefully that won't continue after that. So
Okay. So I don't know how it's going to come out in the end. I don't know the budget deal that's going to come together. So I would love to not do it. I would love to repeal all taxes, and that's be the perfect world, right? But that ain't going to happen.
Right.
Because we like things like fires. This is all taxes right here. So I don't know what the deal is yet. I would have loved, actually I'd love to have that extended to beers I drink more, which are the craft beers, right? The thicker beers. Didn't like that deal in the beginning.
right.
It was intended to hit sort of things made out of state, right? That was the objective of it. But no tax is perfect, right? No tax doesn't cause pain. So I don't know what the deal will be in the end. So let's go back. Well, wait a minute. So I was on my way to you for guns, and then she stopped me. But this young gentleman has his hand up, so let me, not you, him back there. So I'd just like to hear him just because he's got his hand up. And then, ma'am, I'll come to you. Okay?
Hi, going back to the gun subject.
You ran against me. You're a PJ.
Yeah.
Sorry, I knew that face. Sorry, I just had a moment flash.
I don't know, I'm just putting a statement out there. Please, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the Tucson, Arizona shooting on Gavin Griffiths, I believe the way they stopped the shooting was when he was reloading. And so if we have like 30 clip magazines, sorry, I'm a little nervous.
It's okay. No, everybody here is going to respect your right to say this, okay? I will defend your right to say this to the point of maybe even if somebody needs, I'll jump them or so. So you are the stage right now.
So if we have like 30 clip magazines, that allows the shooter more time to get more shots out and have less of a chance for anybody to stop the shooting, because they're not going to come after him if he's like shooting. But if we have lower clip magazines like New York, now the max they can have is 7. When they're reloading after 7 shots, someone has the opportunity to go after the guy and stop, or the guy or woman, and stop the shooting. So I don't know, I'm just putting that out there.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Very well.
7 7 bullets is much safer than 30 bullets, you know.
Okay.
I'm just putting that statement out there. I'm not looking to argue with anybody.
So we can argue here, you did good, and he is not gonna yell at you for that. He respects your right to say that. And in fact, I think he's impressed that you know the details of the event. Ma'am.
Well, she mentioned taxes, so let's get back to the 2/3 thing, and I'm gonna read this just because I didn't get much sleep last night, and I'm kind of tired.
Okay.
Don't want to miss anything. 65% of Washington voters and the voters of your district, the 44th legislative district, voted to require 2/3 vote of legislature before taxes can be increased. The courts overturned that, and there's since been legislation to restore the wishes of your constituents, but you and 100% of your associates voted it down. Just wondered how you justify that. You're supposed to represent us.
So I'm elected. At the same time, those other things. There are things on the ballot. When I go out and I talk to people, and I try to get to all my constituents, I don't. There are some in rural areas that I can't bike up to because I'd be dead possum on the road. They represent me, and they say, what are your beliefs? I say, for instance, that I'm against the 2/3. I think it's bad for democracy. Just the pure fundamentals of democracy. And I've had that conversation 1,000 times. And I answer that in newspapers. I say, you know, newspapers will always ask that question. I say, here are my beliefs on the things that are on the ballot. And then I get elected. And you try to figure out, you know, I mean, people are electing me after I've laid out my beliefs, and if I acted against my beliefs, if I said, okay, I'm going this way because the wind's blowing that way, I wouldn't respect myself, and you wouldn't respect me, even though we disagree, okay? And I actually do believe that it's the tyranny of the minority when you have supermajorities. And you look through history, and you look around the world, and democracies, or republics as some people would say, who have supermajorities in their systems. The U.S. Senate is a perfect example. It is dysfunctional because of the filibuster. That it takes 60 votes to do something. And is it working? Is our federal government working?
Well, one of the reasons they have that filibuster is for gridlock, and we need gridlock.
Okay.
It's very often a good thing.
Okay, you and I respectfully disagree.
Yeah.
I think the majority should rule. And that may sound like a contradiction to the 2/3 argument, but it's the reality that the majority of people who are elected, you know, there are so many things that we have to do, that we have to interlock, that we have to figure out how much for mental health, how much for education, how much for highways, what kind of laws we pass. Just, well, 3 more sentences, okay? Okay. Democracy works when we balance all those things, when we figure out compromises. And I think democracy is harmed by supermajorities. And I work on one of the areas, the capital budget, which takes 59 votes to get to. And, so I tell people that. And I'm not gonna blow in your ear and tell you I agree with you. And you wouldn't respect me if I did.
So, I was just wondering, given that the 2/3 initiative has been so popular here in your district that you represent, what do you think the voters are really trying to tell you and tell Olympia when they pass that repeatedly?
So the group that passed this out?
Yeah.
Thousands of them.
Okay.
And they hired people to go pass them out, and they were throwing them on doors, and they had voters lists.
Okay.
Of course, they weren't declaring their money. They weren't pretending that they were pretending that they weren't participating in the election.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, they didn't hunt you. I don't know how much was spent to pass those out.
Okay. So
Whereas
what's
just
that mean?
spent, well, so these were everywhere, and they mailed them too, right? And people read that, and they read my stuff, and they said they wanted me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best evidence I have.
What's that mean? I don't.
That means people elected me.
I'm not really seeing the clarity.
Okay.
People really, what do you think your constituents' underlying philosophy when they support the 2/3 initiative and they turn down the tax, the other taxes, they opposed you on the excise tax, when they...
And they elected me.
Yeah, Yes, I don't think you're understanding my question.
I don't think you're understanding my point.
Your point, if I understand it, is if you're elected,
Mhm.
what the people say or think about certain issues are irrelevant. Is that what you're saying?
But when I talk to the people, and I talk to a lot of people, right? I listen to them. They say, God, we really don't like higher taxes. But God, if you gotta do mental health, you gotta do education, you gotta do transportation, we're gonna leave those decisions to you.
Well, I don't think you're listening to me though, because I'm wondering when, my question is this district really supports those issues? And what do you think as a message they're trying to send to you? What is their philosophy behind that? Do you understand them?
Yes.
You're saying, if I understand you correctly, that you understand them because they vote for you, but you don't need to understand how they feel about a 2/3 initiative or an excise tax.
That's not what I said.
Because you are an elected official.
No, I didn't say that.
That's what it's coming like to me
I know.
personally.
You disagree with me adamantly, right?
Well, I think the 2/3 initiative is a bedrock of accountability in government.
Okay, we disagree.
Mhm.
And at some point we just agree when we disagree.
And it's just,
And you get to
No
vote against me.
understanding.
No, absolutely understand. You get to disagree, you get to vote against me in the next election. That's your account, that's the real accountability in this system. It's the joy of democracy and the responsibility.
So the budget, so you're the chair of the budget committee, right?
I do the construction budget.
Construction budget.
What builds schools, universities, fish hatcheries, that kind of stuff.
Okay. And on that budget committee, you have to have, it's 59 votes in order, is that what
Across
you
the House
said?
floor, yeah.
Okay. Because I'm trying to understand this too. I mean, as a mom who has to balance her checkbook, I mean, if I spend more than we bring in, then, you know, that's not a good situation for my family. And I think across the board, a lot of people, and this crosses, I mean, this has nothing to do with political parties. So there's Democrats and Republicans and people that don't blame any party whatsoever that are very concerned about spending. And I think we all agree that we need taxes, we all agree that we need fire stations, we all agree that we need, you know, community services and things that the government, you know, that we have set up our government to provide, you know. And as anybody who runs a budget, whether it's at a family level or at a, you know, your budget, you know, construction budget level, or state budget, or any level of budget, at the end of the day, if the money in doesn't equal the money out, you know, if there's a big divergence there, then there's going to be a problem. And we consistently have a problem in the state of Washington, and consistently nationally too, but forget nationally, other than the fact that they're cutting off funds that you guys need, you know, that you're funding various programs with. I mean, we all agree that we need, you know, certain services, education needs, all these different areas need money. But at the end of the day, the budget has to balance up or else it won't work. And I think that that's probably why 5 times the voters in Washington, it's not just our district, it's all across the state. I mean, people keep saying 2/3 of the people, regardless of their political leanings, are saying, well, yeah, it makes sense that you spend the amount of money that you have, period, the end. You know, because there's a lot of things that, you know, I and my children would like to have, or whatever, might be a good idea, but if we don't have the money, at the end of the day, we have to make choices, you know? So it concerns me deeply because, like he said, okay, I got this too at my house. I mean, I think a lot of us did, you know?
All of you did.
Yeah.
I'm
So-
sorry, but I don't know what this is.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sitting here for the last 10 minutes
Sorry.
in the
It's a
dark. I don't know
pamphlet.
who
It's a
talking
political
about.
pamphlet that was, they could have spent $100,000 passing that thing out, and they don't disclose who they are. A lot of their facts are wrong, by the way.
Well,
But
that's wrong.
email me and I mean, I could go over it.
Right here.
So I
Okay.
guess, what do they want? I mean, I can sit here and
They
read
wanted-
this
they
at
wanted
3
people-
o'clock. What
Right.
do they want?
They wanted people to vote against me.
They're bashing him.
Right.
Ah.
So they were
It's not
passed.
bashing.
Well, it just.
Okay, whoa, time out, mellow down, okay? Okay, so,
Only one.
right. So, I will point out that word
It's
came
a
from your
survey.
table, but so, this was a political flyer. It wasn't well done, by the way, but I disagree with the facts of it.
And you still
okay?
don't know who did it?
No, they won't disclose. So money that I spend on my literature, you know where my money comes from, you know how it's spent, you can see that all online. This group hid behind that they were doing information. And it's got pictures of candidates and supposed positions, it has party position, and it has some charts, which I even can't read now. Anyway.
Well,
forgot
what
my
part of
glasses.
it do you disagree with?
What? Okay. I'm having trouble reading it. Pardon?
He'll read it for you.
No, oh, just, yeah, hopefully your eyes are better, Bob. Anyway, okay, so I would gladly, so I'll put this up, I'll put this piece up and show you where the facts are wrong.
Oh, it's right there.
I know I can't.
You can't read it.
Literally, it's like that. So, okay, so let me go to what you said, okay? So, we balance our budget in this state. We've cut 10 billion out of the carry forward, the sort of do same stuff budget over the last 4 years. That's about almost a third that we've cut out of the carry forward world. In other words, you know, we have what's called, and this is where you see what's called the deficit in our sense. If we just continue to the same business, same number of dollars per child coming in who comes into the school, same number of people in the mental health hospital, whoever shows up, seniors in nursing homes, all those things that we pay for in this world. If we do that at the same way, it sort of goes at this level. We've cut 10 billion out of that carry forward level. And we balance our budget. At the end of every day, we balance our budget. What you're seeing are projections. For instance, those projections include a teacher's pay raise that the voters voted for. They said teachers will get a cost of living raise every year. We've suspended that initiative because we couldn't afford it. And we thought that would be less of a cut to education than other things we had to do. So we suspended that. So that's in that projection that we would fund that. State employees too, sort of things like that. All those are in the projection. So we've cut a bunch of stuff like that. And we balance our budget. At the end of every year, every budget is balanced, but what you're seeing are projections out into the future for the next 2 years. We will
What is the deficit then? I'm sorry.
The deficit is just that projection. At the end of the budget, our budget will be balanced. The projection is what people are calling deficit in our world. It's a projection of over the next 2 years. We will have to spend this much to meet just what we're doing now. And the teacher's raises are pretty well. We suspend it every 2 years, but at the end, instead of just repealing that initiative, we say, okay, we're going to suspend it, and then it comes sort of back into the calculation of what our projected needs are. And then we suspend it again, and that reduces us by that amount, so we come to balance at the end.
I just had to say, regarding the 2/3 majority, our state Supreme Court found it was unconstitutional. It wasn't just a whim, that they didn't philosophically agree with it. They studied it very carefully. They looked at our state constitution and they said it's unconstitutional. And I just kind of want to put that out there because we can't say, this part of the Constitution is good, I'm going to keep that, and this part is not good, and that's our Constitution. I mean, it takes a big process to amend it.
And their decision read, it was good words about the tyrancy of the minority, which you want gridlock. I disagree with you, but respectfully. And that's what they were talking about. It's worthy to read the decision. And you can read the dissenting decision too. And those should be available online. Okay.
Mr. Dunshee, you mentioned earlier that you don't like the concept of supermajorities in the legislature. The woman over here mentioned about, well, it would take a constitutional amendment to get something to pass, to get the 2/3 thing to pass. the way the Washington state government works, as far as I understand, is in order to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot for voters to vote on, it requires a supermajority. So are you suggesting that you're okay getting rid of the supermajority vote for a constitutional amendment?
That amendment is in the Constitution, the 2/3 to amend our Constitution. I respect the law as it is. I think supermajorities are bad for democracy.
Why? I mean, I still don't understand why you hold that position. I hear the
Sure.
word tyrants and
Okay.
supermajority, but I don't get it.
So I believe in one person, one vote,
Right?
okay? If your
Why
vote,
is 66 of them bad?
if your vote carries more weight than mine, then that's not one person, one vote.
How do you figure that? I don't see
Okay,
that.
so if 33 people can stop the will of 66 people, that's 2/3, right? So that 65 people, say there are 100 of us here, 65 of us vote for something. And the other 34 say, nope, we don't do that. That's not one person, one vote.
Well, how is that happening in this case? 2/3 of the people of the state voted for the 2/3 requirement.
So we're gonna spend 5 more minutes on this subject and then we're gonna move around the room some more.
I don't understand how this applies in this.
Okay, so in the legislature, 1/3 can stop 2/3 if your law was in place, right?
No. You have to have a 2/3 majority.
Yeah, 2/3, one vote, one vote. It'd be
Right.
like if 2/3 of this room voted for anything, that's 2/3 of the room voting for it.
But if
just under 2/3 super anything.
One at a time. So,
I don't see it.
okay, I'm sorry I can't explain it, that's a fault of mine. Say there are 100 people here, right? And 52 of us want to raise taxes. But then the other 48 can say no. Then the minority has thwarted the will of the majority.
Or the
Wait,
52
did you
need
get
to
the-
find another, whatever, 13, to go with them. That's
I don't dispute that, but do you agree that the 48 have more power than the 52?
No.
Okay, well then I can't.
Well, I did a lot of research, like the founding of the Constitution, all that. You said a couple important words a while ago about a republic. And so what I have understood is they were very worried about mob rule, and like you just used the word, numbers 52 and 48. And this, I think of like, I don't know, 52 people voted to legalize slavery. I mean, that would be kind of like, why would we wouldn't want that, right? And you also talked about how you believed that you didn't believe in the 2/3 majority, but you mentioned, and I don't know what the numbers are, that a lot of people in this district did. What I think of a republic is we elect somebody to represent us, and it doesn't really matter so much. I suppose you need to tell us what you believe in for us to vote, or vote for you. But if you believe in something contrary to the majority of the certain district, you're supposed to kind of stick up for the people you represent.
So there's nothing I love talking about more than political theory. And your example of slavery is perfect. The reason slavery occurred was because the minority of the South was able to keep it in our country for so long. And the imbalance of the federal Senate and of the Electoral College gave the South more power than it had on a proportional representation. And it's a perfect example of essentially the tyranny of the minority that kept us in slavery until we fought it out. And you should go and watching the movie Lincoln is a perfect example.
I don't watch any of that. I think the
Okay.
mainstream, I think the mainstream
So then you
media
should
is the
read-
enemy of the republic. That's
Then
what I
you
think.
should read.
It's just like when you talk about like who we vote for and stuff, and people just get their information from watching the TV and the news and all that. And it's so easy to influence people. And I've realized people don't read. How many people here have actually read the Constitution, read the Bill of Rights? read the Declaration of Independence. A lot of people that I've grown up with know nothing about it.
Well, apparently the people here.
Well, this is a very small group of people from.
I represent, 137,000 people live in this district. And a lot of folks, right, and about 20 people at the last meeting and, 40 here. And, how do I discern what the 137,000 people, only 70,000 of them are voters, but,
Representative, first, thank you for all your hard work. Secondly,
I think this isn't as good as the first.
a statement on what my perception is of this conversation. My perception is the tyranny of the majority, which is mob rule, over the tyranny of the minority. The reason we have 2/3 is a check on the mob rule, would be my opinion of it, whether it's on the state level or the federal level.
Okay.
And it was built into that power structure on purpose. May have led to some things, maybe slavery staying in place longer than it could have, should have, would have. But nonetheless, there was a check on that mob rule, and that's your 2/3. I'm not saying for the taxes or not the taxes or whatever the 2/3 that just went through the Supreme Court, but I understand the check that people here want. The other issue where you represent the people, the constituents in your district, they voted you in, even though they may disagree with you on one issue. And that speaks volumes for your work.
The beautiful thing is they can vote me out.
And they can disagree with you on one issue and still vote you in.
Absolutely agree. If you can sort out the perfect democracy, so some books for you. So there's a great book called Unruly Americans about the movement from essentially what got us the federal Constitution versus the Articles of Confederation. It's worthy to read. About what they were looking for in a federal Constitution and what those guys were after. That's worthy to read. I've read the book called The Constitution by Page Smith. But it has, what it has in it, the great thing it has in it, it has a lot of Madison's notes. They write the Constitution and come back at the end of the day and write, excuse me, he was probably right-handed. Didn't mean to represent James Madison. And he would write out these notes longhand. They're pretty good. Okay, so I think we've beat me up well enough on this subject, or do you want to go for a little while longer?
I think
You've taken a phrase. Take your run.
5 minutes are up, so I'll change subject.
Okay.
Gas taxes. We have.
Christina, can you go give me some water?
So in Oregon, they are running a pilot program to tax people on mileage driven rather than on gas. And I'd like to encourage you to look into that for this state too, because there are a lot more electric and natural gas powered cars. Pull up behind this electric car behind here, and I realize he's not paying any contributions to our roads.
Who's got that?
Actually, there will be, I don't remember the number, it's like $35 or $45 extra added to the registration each year for electric cars.
That ain't nothing compared to the gas tax.
Yeah, he's against gas tax, by the way, so.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, yeah,
sure,
well,
so I know that
my proposal is that to make it voluntary for those who want to pay by mileage driven, let them do that, require it for electric cars, and then let people decide for themselves. But I think it's a much better way of funding our roads, because that way we can direct the taxes towards roads that have higher congestion. If you're driving on I-5 at 8 in the morning, 5 days a week in Seattle.
Is that you?
No, I would not do that. But then you should be paying more for that road rather than driving out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night. So that way it's a more fair way of taxing, and it directs our money. It's more of a market-driven way to get our money towards building our roads to relieve congestion.
So if everyone is real not interested in raising taxes, then I'm not saying that that's not the way to go, but just think of the other side of this. How in the world do you administer that? You're gonna have to hire 792,000 people, I'm being very facetious, to administer how many miles you drive and I drive a year. What do? Show up every year and someone read your odometer or something?
Electronics.
Yeah, but you have it in this system, and I've read a little about it, you have a, he knows more about it than I do. You have a meter on your car.
Right,
And when
but
you
I'm still saying, someone's gonna have to administer that, we're gonna have to pay, we're going to have to, you know, how do you charge for that? Do you pay for it at the gas? I mean, we're talking about a whole new system. Not saying we're not against it, but, I mean, we talk about this, but we don't talk about the administration of the thing. And pretty soon, 5 years down the road, everybody's flapping their hands because we have a new group that has to be installed. I mean,
Okay, I get it. So, let me just lay it out for you a little bit. People who do transportation funding, so the gas tax is decreasing, the amount. We're driving more, we're getting better mileage. My car gets 40 when I'm calm. It's all about how you drive.
You mean the revenue's decreasing?
Yeah, the revenue per gallon, or the revenue per car per mile traveled, right? So people are looking at other methods, and or